Okay, welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. I'm Mangg. We're just playing a little Withering Waves here. May look like Genshin Impact, but it is not. This is Withering Waves, which has the rare quality of having the word withering in it. So this has been out for some time, I guess. And just sort of recently hit Steam, which is where it sort of popped up on my radar and probably a lot of other people as well. And, you know, I like Genshin. I've put certainly plenty of time into Genshin. Not excessive or anything, but I did that like free-to-play sort of playthrough for a while and stuff. And yeah, I think Genshin's pretty good. I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. People say it's like better than Genshin, I suppose. And I've been playing quite a bit of it now, and yeah, it does kind of seem better than Genshin. It shares a lot of the same kind of qualities, but it seems like even more sort of casual friendly. There's just like certain little quality of life things that just I kind of noticed, and it's like, oh, that's nice. I'm glad they do that, and I'm glad blah 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 blah. And I don't know. I've been enjoying it. I think the combat is really quite entertaining, so that helps quite a bit. I don't even have that many characters. I'm not doing completely free to play, but I haven't really. I've spent like I got like the battle pass. Like that's basically it, you know. But yeah, so I don't have that many characters, but I got this one Encore that I've really been enjoying playing, and then I also have Sanhua, who you get basically for free, and she's quite fun as well. It's all very flashy. There's a lot of, I think it's actually pretty improved to have, instead of a 4-person party, so we can hear the music there. Instead of having a 4-person party like in Genshin, they drop it down to 3 here, and I think that helps a lot. I don't feel as like stressed during combat to like constantly be switching my characters to maximize my potential. I guess it probably feels maybe a bit easier than Genshin. I think I have seen complaints from people that like overall it is kind of an easy game. So I think that sort of just lends it more to being a bit casual friendly.
Keep them as you will.
And I don't, yeah, I've just had a good time kind of exploring the world and doing all the little puzzles and mini stuff that you find and the little exploration and intermixed with fun combat. And yeah, I think it's pretty solid, I gotta say. So that's that. Right. This week on this channel, Player Obscure, which will continue for quite some time. I've got already like, I want to say like 14 videos. And I'm like at the end of Act 2 of 3. So yeah, although I think Act 3 is a bit more side content.
Lotus pervade. A change of perception. Not worth mentioning.
So it's hard to say, but for sure it's gonna
Stay behind.
be going on for a good while yet. We also had Dawn of War. As of now, my last stuff related to Dawn of War that I'll be uploading So that's done with. And possibly, I don't know. Okay, so the big thing coming out in the very near future is, of course, Doom: The Dark Ages. And I will definitely be doing a playthrough of that. So I guess I kind of want to just upload something relatively short that will be kind of done by the time Doom comes out, because Claire Obscure will not be done.
This is so much fun! Oh. Da-da-da-da-da-da!
So I don't know. I'll have to look at whatever I have that's pretty short. Because Doom's gonna come along, and then it'll be that and Claire Obscure for a while. Then we also have later this month another bigger release, and that's Elden Ring Night Reign. I'm not sure if there's going to be a recorded playthrough of that, and frankly, I'm not sure if I'm even going to get it. And that's entirely going to be based on reviews, specifically reviews about the solo play. I don't have a trio. I have a duo, maybe, and there has been some chatter that they're going to add a duo mode at some point, but doesn't sound like it's going to be at launch. So I'd really only play it solo. And I don't like playing with randos. And so I'll be waiting to see some reviews on that, because frankly, if I want to play Elden Ring at this point, I would still just play Convergence, which I enjoy quite a bit. So Night Reign is not like, oh my god, more Elden Ring. Yes, it's like Convergence has been more Elden Ring for me. Damn it. So we'll see about that. I'm not quite as committed to that as I am for Doom. Not a chance in hell. Damn it.
The story isn't over.
So we'll see. But definitely Doom. Definitely Doom. Unless for some reason the reviews are just absolute dog shit, but I can't imagine. So that's what's happening there. We also started last night on Two Brothers Play a little Factorio with Crastorio. So I was thinking about actually doing Crastorio solo playthrough, because it just got updated to 2.0. But we were finishing up our archipelago run, and I mentioned it, and he was all on board. So we're doing Crastorio with Rampant on, like, Death World settings, which so far, for the few hours we played last night, wasn't too bad. But we'll see. See how that goes. Over on the Exploring series, we had part 1 of Stillborn City, which performed pretty well. I think it's got a good sort of SCP title that attracted people, and a solid thumbnail I used. So, yeah, even though it was a multi-parter, good amount of people tuned in for part 1. We'll see how many tune in for part 2. We shall see. I think I used, again, like a really good thumbnail, so that's gonna help. But I saw some comments on the first video. People didn't like that it featured a woman, which is just swell. And I think there's just like more sarcasm, and I saw a bunch of people didn't care for the swearing, which was interesting.
A change of perception.
And I don't usually involve swears
I won't back down. Shackles be gone.
because I don't read things verbatim, so there isn't much reason for me to include swears.
Rejuvenating snow. Ha! Immense healing. Foolish.
This one, it just felt like I'm gonna read this thing verbatim. Feel like I have to just, read it. I actually have cut out a few lines, to be honest, because I know my voice acting isn't great, and there were lines that I just knew I wouldn't be able to really deliver convincingly.
Stay behind me. A change of perception.
So, yeah, part 2 will drop tomorrow, and that'll be the end of Stillborn City. I definitely liked it. Although I think there will be complaints about the ending. Because I think a lot of people like pretty grim, dark stuff. This is really like sarkic horror, and it doesn't really have a sarkic horror ending.
Caution is advised.
So we'll see comments about that.
Cycle of corruption. Frozen blockade. A change of perception.
I just like how unique every character feels in this game. Like Sanwa has this whole gimmick where she creates glaciers, and then you have to hold down a button and do like this timed thing and releasing it at the right time based on the bar at the bottom of the screen that builds up, and I don't know, every character is just really unique. Anyways, that has nothing to do with that. This week then I'm working on Flax. I don't remember the number, but it was an SCP that I originally had been working on to put in the redacted SCPs video. And this isn't the first time this has happened, but I realized that basically it was long enough to be its own thing, and the video was going to be lengthy enough without it that I was just like, okay, screw it. I'll just leave this and make its own video. That happened with that one that was like Law of the Land or something, where it was like this little country town that every law passed became like a law of reality or something, and then the town like vanished. That was originally a part of neutralized SCPs, I want to say. I think. And it was just like, okay, this could be its own video. And it was. And it is. And it was good. So yeah, the nice part, this has been on the polls for a while now, and I realized it was really never going to get picked. So I just picked it myself to give myself a break, because it is already mostly written.
A good vantage point.
Yeah, so that's that. Plenty more SCP on the way. And right. So this week I did 2 RPG sessions. Double the pleasure. On Monday, I finally, after a very long time, had a group of friends get back together to play some RPGs. And I DM'd some Shadow Dark for them. Get them into the OSR genre properly. And I ran an adventure from the OSE Adventure Anthology #2, Barrow of the Bone Blaggarts, which I had done solo before. And I had pre-generated characters. I put them at level 2, so it was just like, because I didn't really want them to die over and over, so it was like, okay, we'll just make it a little easier on them and put them at level 2.
Cycle of corruption. Ha! Be alert.
And it went really well. Everyone really enjoyed it.
Shackles be gone.
It was very refreshing, very nice to play with a group that didn't need to be told what dice to roll. You know, Shadow Dark is based, you know, it's D&D, and they're all familiar with D&D, so it's just like, yeah, it's like D&D. That's basically all I needed to say. And when we were away, and they had a bunch of fun, you know, mucking through the dungeon and getting up to some shenanigans and getting into a little bit of combat, which wasn't too bad. And, you know, Lego was there, and he got an opportunity to shine because they went into the big giant room with all the undead, and they were kind of looking pretty screwed. It was not looking good for them, but then Lego managed to use turn undead to catch like most of them, you know. So he was pretty pleased, and they all survived. They got some treasure and they enjoyed it, so it was all good.
Keep them as you will.
And it really motivated my one buddy Ziggy, was our, you know, forever DM. Motivated him to kind of get back into the saddle. So he's in the kitchen, you know, trying to cook up a campaign at some point. It's tricky for him because he's kind of a relatively new dad of 3. He just had twins and stuff, so it's like, you know, it's tough to... That's why we're only playing once a month at this point, but he's hoping to get up to 2 a month, and then he wants to run a campaign. And I'm all for it, because I'm very much looking forward to playing with a group again. But for now, we are going to just be doing one-shots. I think next time I'm going to use Tales of Argosa, just because it's the system that I prefer a lot. I like Shadow Dark. I think it's pretty simple, and especially for players that have never done an RPG, Shadow Dark is a great introduction. But yeah, I mean, I kind of prefer Tales of Argosa for various reasons.
Be alert.
So that was all good. I mean, there wasn't much to share. It was just so noticeable a difference compared to running for my family, you know. Would have had to have asked 1,000 questions over and over again. I would have had to repeat myself 20 times. And here it was just sit down and go. You know, even though a couple of them have not played RPGs really in like a few years. So it was good. It was very good.
Caution is advised.
Then we got over to my family game last night. And that was not as smooth.
Shackles be gone.
They... Let's see, where were they? Right, so they were outside the Mantis lands. Wanting to take on the Mantis. And they had just gotten attacked by some giant dragonflies, you know, so they were kind of beat up because they didn't really do well on their short rests.
A change of perception.
So they were kind of beat up. And they kind of just wanted to, like, go back to town. They wanted to go back to the Froglings and just do a long rest. And they get back to the Froglings, and they realize that they don't really have that much food. And they decided, well, they could go hunting and then rest for a week. But hunting is also really dangerous because you can get attacked. And the area they were in, honestly, is, like, one of the most dangerous areas on the map as far as random encounters go. You get a random encounter on a 3 out of 6 chance, so 50-50 chance every 4 hours you're in the area of getting a random encounter of, like, a pack of, like, 8 giant dragonflies or something. And it is the way Tales of Argosa works, much like, or sort of like 13th Age. It is kind of the best way to heal, or the fastest way to heal, is just get into another fight. Which is sort of strange. I mean, realistically, doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, you could just heal slowly by spending some time resting. You could do a long rest over the course of a week in order to fully recover and stuff. But yeah, if you just get into another significant fight, you can patch yourself up and possibly end up with more HP than you went into it with.
Be alert. A change of perception.
So yeah, but they were feeling the pain at this point.
And bring.
So eventually they're like, okay, fuck this. We're gonna just go back to Malorn.
Found something you like.
There was a lot of discussion. It was a very slow session. There's a lot of discussion about them just like they've had this habit this whole time of not finishing any plot line or sort of thread. They just keep bouncing from one thing to the next and then abandoning it part way because they're like, we gotta leave, we can't handle this. And then they just go to another thing and start it and get halfway and like, we can't handle this, we gotta leave. And it's just like, my God, have some fucking confidence and just push through and finish something. Good Christ.
A change of perception.
So they decided eventually they wanted to go to Malorn, the big town nearby, a couple days away. They wanted to go there, sell some shit, buy some shit, and hire some men to go on and take out the bandit camp. They wanted to actually finish the bandit camp. And I'm like, well, that's very good. That's noble. Let's make that happen. So they made the trek to Malorn. And they did their shopping. They sold some stuff. They got a bunch of cash. They did, some purchases. And then they wanted to hire some men. And this led to the longest discussion of the whole thing. Lego was sort of spearheading this whole discussion, but afterwards he said that it was the worst part of the whole thing, and he called the session not fun. because of this. And again, I'm using mostly axe rules for this. I could have made it a lot simpler, and for their benefit, probably I should have. But I like how axe handles it. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's how I would want it to be run if I was playing. Basically, you have several kind of distinctions of hirelings, people you hire. There's kind of the lowest level of henchmen, which are people you hire that are kind of relatively untrained, unskilled, and are literally there to just like be a torch bearer or porter or something. The important distinction here is that they have very low wages because they don't know how to do anything, and they are not willing to go into a dangerous location like a dungeon or something. So it's pretty much reserved for just like someone you want to watch the horses or something like that, you know? Like they don't have to have any training. They just kind of have to be loyal enough to not run off with your shit. And even then, it's questionable. And they're not expected to do anything particularly dangerous, you know? That's like that's the lowest, most basic level. And that's really like a silver a day, as long as they're fed, you know? You have to feed them. Lego wanted these guys, though, to be armed. And it's like, okay, well, that's definitely a higher price. Because if you're armed, it suggests, generally, that you know how to use the weapon, you know, to anyone that sees you. And so these are men that are carrying weapons with the possible expectation that they might have to use them at some point. So they demand a higher pay. So I went for a gold piece per day per one of these guys. And you still have to feed them, but otherwise, you know, they're just kind of there, and they watch your horses in case something bad happens. What's funny to me is that nothing has ever happened to their donkey or their horses or anything like that. And really, you're just inviting the DM to now fuck with you because you think that this is a possibility. I think that's usually something that you'd want to be not proactive about, funnily enough. It's one of those things that you'd want to just see if the DM does it to you and they're like, oh, okay, we're going to need somebody, we're going to need some protection for our animals here. This isn't going to work out.
Leave it to me.
Rather than, hey, DM, we don't like this whole feeling where our horses are too safe. And so we want to jeopardize that now.
Rejuvenating snow.
Stop!
But okay. I mean, who am I to say?
Stay behind me. A change of perception. Not worth mentioning.
Leave it to me.
Right. So above that, then,
Acceptable damage.
are what we'd call specialists.
I can handle this.
Authentication failure.
Specialists are anyone that has a particular training or skill.
Leave me.
So these are going to be alchemists. These are going to be sages. These are going to be butchers. These are going to be animal handlers. You know, any blacksmiths or anything like that.
Shackles be gone.
Yeah, anyone with particular training or skills that you were hiring to do a job. They also will not be going into dungeons with you or anything. They are part of your camp. Or you might even hire them just for like a week or something to do a job. Or they might not actually travel with you, but you need something done. You need to hire an alchemist for a week to brew up some shit.
I can keep
So they have like a daily rate.
Save me, boys.
So that price varies a lot, obviously. To me, a butcher is not going to cost nearly as much as an alchemist will.
worthwhile expedition.
So varying amounts of gold or silver per day, depending on the contract. Then you have mercenaries. So these are military-trained soldiers of different kits. You know, you have light infantry, heavy infantry, bowmen, crossbowmen, cavalry, so on and so forth. These are hired to partake in some sort of military campaign. Some sort of open warfare or siege or garrison defense. Something that would involve their military training and generally large numbers. You know, these are soldiers, not adventurers. So Axe has a lot of specific stipulations of what they will or won't do, especially if they're being personally led by an adventurer or not. But the general thing is that they are paid per month.
I won't back down.
They are paid per month, and they also expect plunders
Lotus pervade.
from any military expedition they're taking part in.
Suffering transcends.
Willie, this is so much fun! Leave that away!
So they will not go into dungeons with you, and you're generally not hiring like 3 mercenaries. You know, you don't have to hire like 800 of them or anything like that, because you might only need like, okay, I need like 20 guys to help garrison this keep or something. But that's all going into bookkeeping of how much it costs to maintain them at your garrison or what have you. Then the last step is like, I don't even remember what, I think they're called henchmen in Axe. And that's specifically adventurers, like the player characters. These have a level, they have a class, they are willing to go into dungeons, they're willing to do adventuring kind of tasks within reason. And they take a half share of the XP and a half share of the treasure. So they do not get a daily wage, a monthly wage, or anything like that. They are there to be adventurers alongside you. And they get a half share of treasure. It's not really, explained why they're happy with a half share. But they are not as dumb as player characters. They will not go into a suicidal situation just because the players tell them to. They have a morale score and they have a loyalty score, and that can waver if they're thrown into really dumb situations. So they could leave. But they level up, eventually. And if players die, they have the option of taking over as one of the henchmen, So all these kind of delineations that I had to explain to them. And Lego understood. It took a while for the others to get on board, but they understood. And they ended up hiring 2 armed porters for a gold piece a day.
This is so much fun!
As well as 1 level 0 fighter that Lego wanted as like an archer in the back to help them out. And I think that's, I thought it was very reasonable. Aside from the issue with the porters kind of introducing complications that might not have been there before. But yeah, and then they got into this whole debacle about food and buying food and who's carrying all the food and blah 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 blah. It was this whole thing. Shit.
This is so much fun! You're it! We'll leave that away! No one picks on Uncor's pro-
Yeah, so that ate up a good portion of the session, and tension started to rise. Because everything had to be this big group decision, everything had to be discussed, and no one is just like, okay, I'm gonna go hire this guy, and he's gonna be my dude. Like, there was none of that. Which is sort of how I think my friends would handle it, rather than this massive discussion about who's carrying what, and who's hiring who, and oh my god. But Axe, you know, it has these specific requirements for hiring, you know, and it takes a minimum of a week to kind of schmooze around the inns and stuff to find the people you're hiring. So they ended up getting a long rest while they were doing that. And also during that period, my nephew decided to finish up his magical research. Sort of a blend I did of Tales of Argosa and Axe here, but I let him spend a bunch of money and time in a safe location in order to research a random spell to add to his list. So he finally finished that up, and he got a great success on his int roll, so I'm like, okay, I'll give him 3 choices to pick from. And he got, like, Discern Gist, which is like a Google Translate spell. He got Mage Missile. And he got Blinding Flash. And he was going to go with Discern Gist. And I had to speak up at this point. I had to say, like, that would probably be my 3rd choice of the 3. And I mentioned this to Lego, and he was like, well, you know, you never know. We might... They thought, well, if they find somebody they can't communicate with, they could write it down, and then he could discern the gist of it. It's like, okay, sure. But Mage Missile has a range of 360 feet. And you can cast it repeatedly until you break concentration. Like, that's an absurdly powerful level 1 spell. And Lego immediately recognized that that was true, and he's like, holy shit, you gotta pick that. So he switched to Mage Missile. We'll see if he ends up using it intelligently or not, but pretty good spell. It was worrisome that he didn't immediately recognize that, because I did mention, I read the whole thing to him, including the range. He went with Discern Gist.
You're it!
Anyways. So they finally got everything settled. They also bought horses for the whole crew so they could travel in style, which was fine.
Here comes Encore!
And they went back to Ilmire. They went to the bandit camp. They started scouting it out. They went in at night, and they wanted to basically do the same thing they had done previously. Go around the back way, climb up towards where the tower is, and then maybe just start attacking them.
This is so much.
And it's just, they're so bad. They're so bad. So, you know, my nephew had gotten Spider Climb as a spell from the Druid. So he spider climbs up, like, the ridge that's that the tower is sitting on. So he's kind of hanging on to the ridge, on the, you know, the edge of the ridge there, like Nathan Drake. And I say, okay, you know, 30 feet away from you, there's a guy, like, on patrol with a torch, and he's kind of looking around. And eventually he starts walking towards him. What do? And this led to another group discussion back and forth about what they do, and I really shouldn't even allow them to chatter there. I should just have the person involved tell me what they're doing. But anyways, he eventually, my mom wants to just shoot him with an arrow, with her bow. Even though she has fucking terrible perception. But okay, I'd probably give her advantage on it at least. But Lego shoots this down because he says that the guy will just yell out when he gets shot with the arrow. And it'll make too much noise. So instead, they tell my nephew to just yank him down off the ridge. And I don't say anything until they're fully committed to that plan. And then I say, I find it really fucking hilarious. You didn't want him to get shot with an arrow because it'll make sound, but you went with the one plan basically guaranteed to make him yell out as he's falling. I mean, it's not like a video game. I mean, a video game, basically, you just press X and then they just get deleted from existence when you yank him off a cliff. But in reality, this is a 10-foot cliff. He's gonna be yelling as soon as you pull him down. And yeah, sure enough. And the fall doesn't even kill him. It's a 10-foot fall.
Willie, keep up.
So now he like broke his leg and he's like shouting in agony. And so they flee. They just run. And I'm like, good God. Like I can't facepalm harder. There's just no thought is ever put into anything. They talk as if they're thinking, but no actual thoughts are transpiring behind those voices. It's just painful. In the end, it worked out for them, though, because obviously the bandits, recognizing that there's some more troublemakers here. Before, you know, somebody freed all their prisoners. The bandits remembered that, and now they got someone that apparently attacked one of their patrols and left behind a shit ton of tracks. So later that night, while they were sleeping, they got attacked by 9 bandits. I think in an actual old-school D&D game, this would be a fucking death sentence. This was 9 bandits attacking them in the middle of the night when they're unarmored.
To be more, right?
Like, it should just basically be a slaughter. But Tales of Argosa really makes the characters quite powerful, especially being at level 3. They all have a good chunk of health, and with major exploits involved and stuff, they can sort of kill quite a lot of 4 HP bandits. So I either have to just bump up the HP of bandits, or I guess just let them slaughter. They ended up killing very quickly 6 of the 9 bandits, and then 1 fled and 2 surrendered. And that's how we ended. And it's like, okay, I mean, I guess that plan worked. If they weren't unarmored and waking up in the middle of this ambush, it almost would have seemed like something they prepared and planned to do. But it wasn't. So that's where we ended, and at least ended for them on sort of a high note. But yeah, Lego didn't really enjoy the session at all because it was just so much squabbling and bookkeeping and, you know, mechanics of hirelings and stuff like that.
Time for encore.
And he, you know, he liked the Shadow Dark session we did because it was just no fuss, no muss, just in the dungeon at the start and go. But yeah, he stands by that he would just prefer Shadow the Weird Wizard. But I don't really want to DM Shadow the Weird Wizard for them because they're all completely uncreative.
Finders keepers.
They really can't handle builds, you know, making characters. And the combat, you know, comes down to more of like a board game thing, because they're all just like fighters, and it's just like, I don't really want to run this for them. I like Shadow the Weird Wizard a lot, but not for them. They'd probably be slightly better with Shadow Dark, but they don't,
Bullies, let's race.
you know, it's a little too lethal, and Tales of Argosa not as lethal. They'd probably prefer Tales of Argosa just as is, without all my extra shit from Axe that makes it more realistic, and, you know, all the food and survival and all these different mechanics, rather than hand-waving a lot more stuff. But I like all that, so it's hard to say. Everyone's still enjoying it. It was just notable that Lego City really didn't like that session. But they've hired their guys now, so hopefully next session will be alright. Yeah, so that was that. That was that. All right, well, that's all I really have to discuss then. So, more Player Obscure. Something else, maybe more solo role manging, just because there's a lot of, like, short little series I have. Something. You know, it'll be something until Doom the Dark Ages. Much hype. And over on the Exploring series, Stillborn City Part 2. And then next week, a littler SCP about researchers just kind of vanishing from existence. Alright. For now, though, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.